Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. A little while ago, I showed you a potential mistake that can happen when you have a for loop, and I showed you one solution for it. But since I posted that video, a couple of people have told me another solution, and the solution that they've told me is better in a couple of ways. It requires less code, and the results are a lot easier to follow. So let's first have a look at the mistake. Actually, sorry, before we do that, I'll show you where all this is in the zip file that you can download from itch.io in the link on the description. If you download the Let's Make a Game zip file, you'll find the files that we're using today in the folder that's called Using Buttons Wrongly and Correctly. All right, so let's have a look at the mistake. First of all, we have a for loop. It goes from 1 to 2. I'll just zoom in a little bit. We have a for loop. It goes from 1 to 2. We have a button, and the code on the button is set $A $Z++. In other words, we've got an array called A, and pressing the button will increase, or what we want it to do is to increase the value of that slot in the A array. So we'll have a button next to the value of slot 1, and then we'll have a button next to the value of slot 2. In the TD next to that button, we print something like A1 is whatever that value is, and then A2 is whatever that value. And then we have a button that's marked with a plus, and what it's meant to do is increase the value of that slot of the A array. Unfortunately, this doesn't work because what happens is when the for loop is finished, Z has a value of 3 because it starts at 1, it goes up by 1 each time, and it stops executing the loop once this is no longer true. In other words, it will do it when Z is 1, it will do it when Z is 2, but then when Z is 3, it will say, oh, Z is no longer less than or equal to 2, so therefore I shouldn't execute the loop again. And it'll stop. And once you press the button, it'll say, what's the code for this button? Oh, we've got to set $A $Z++. Well, Z is 3, so I'll set A3 to be 1 more than its current value. And that's not what we want. We want the first button to increase A1, and we want the second button to increase A2. And the way that we fixed this problem, or the way that I fixed this problem, was by having a variable which was a long string of text. So something like set W equals, instead of having the actual code, we have the code put into this very long string. So, and then we do the same thing with this all the way down to here, and then at the end we print W. So the first thing it would say is, okay, so W is now less than button plus greater than, and then less than set A1 plus, and then all this other code, and then it'd print that, and then the second time it would go through, and it would set the code in the button to increase A2. So it wouldn't say increase AZ, it would say increase A1 for the first button and increase A2 for the second button. And that is what you want. That is what we want to happen. And so that will happen. And that is perfectly fine. It does what it's meant to do. But it's a little bit messy because you can see we've got all this we've got all this code. We have to, whenever there's a quote, we have to do like that. We've got sort of code within code, and so it makes the program longer, that's not really the problem. The main problem really is that it's sort of it's a bit harder to see exactly what it's doing just by looking at it. So let's look at the more elegant solution that I've been told about, and that is the capture macro. So we get in here. Instead of turning things into a, oops, did it the wrong way. So we have the same code. We have for z equals 1, z is less than or equal to 2, z plus plus. We print the current value of the relevant slot of the A array. Now here's the new thing. We say capture z. We have less than capture, C-A-P-T-U-R-E, space $z greater than. We have the code that we had before, and then at the end we have a slash capture within those greater than, double greater thans and double less thans. Sorry, I think I might have said greater than, less than. It's actually, that one is less than, those two are less than, and that one is greater than. Anyway, so what that does is it tells the computer, okay, when there's a reference to Z in the code, don't treat that as being the current value. Don't treat that as being the value of Z at the time that the button is pressed. What we mean is the value of Z at the time that the code is executed initially. So in other words, it'll say, all right, Z is 1. We'll print A1 is whatever the value of A1 is. Capture Z, okay. I now know that when they say Z, they mean 1. There's a button. The code within the button is set AZ++. It'll know that what it means is set A1++, because that's the value of Z at the time the code is executed. Whereas when the user presses the button, Z will of course be 3, because it will have run through this for loop and printed everything. So that is what capture does. It tells the computer that when I refer to $z or when I refer to any other variable, if I've said capture Z or capture that variable, I mean the value of the variable at the time that the code is executed, and not at the time that the button is pressed, which is of course going to be a different time and therefore going to have a different value of Z. And so as you can see, to me, that looks a lot better. I can see what's happening a lot more easily than if this capture wasn't here and this slash capture wasn't here, but we had a bunch of storing values in a text variable followed by printing that variable. But of course you can use either, but I personally think that this version is better, and it's the one that I would, probably use from now on. So I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.